This program is brought to you by thepodcastfactory.com.
Here's the best way that people can get over fear. The fear of, well, I don't want to shoot my first video, or what if I screw up, is look at your fear through the rear view mirror. In other words, all the things that you were afraid of in the past, whether maybe it was, proposing to your wife or your husband, or asking somebody out on a date, or making your first email that you sent, you can look back on that through the rear view mirror and go, you know what? I was really nervous when I first created that, but now I look at it and it's something that is just part of my day to day.
Hi, my name is Igor Kheifets, and this is The List Building Lifestyle, the only podcast which delivers cutting-edge conversion strategies from the online trenches straight to your earbuds. Download the transcript of today's episode and all future episodes at listbuildinglifestyleshow.com. I also invite you to grab a free copy of the Wealthy List Builder Survival Guide at listbuildinglifestyleshow.com/survival. And now, once again, it's time to claim your list building lifestyle. Welcome back to another edition of the List Building Lifestyle with your host, Igor Kheifets. Despite having an amazing boss, great colleagues, and a great salary of $52,000 a year, Joel Therien walked away from his job as a cardiac rehab specialist to start his own hosting company. Within 6 months, he had 400 clients paying him $20 per month, and that was just the tip of the iceberg. Today, almost 20 years later, Joel stands at the helm of several companies and MLMs. These days, Joel's primarily focused on growing Pure Leverage, which is already one of the world's largest cyber MLMs, which focuses on powerful yet elegant prospecting automation. Joel's work ethics, consistency, and dedication made Pure Leverage a force to be reckoned with. In fact, it is on a trajectory to become one of the first cyber multi-level marketing companies to hit Fortune 100 lists. It's a great pleasure to host you, Joel, because if there's anyone who can shed light on how to achieve lasting success with online business opportunities, it's probably you, my friend. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, thanks for having me, Igor. It's an absolute pleasure. Real pleasure.
Well, it's a pleasure hosting you, trust me. And I know it wasn't easy to get you. I mean, it's just impossible. You're like in Ukraine and Texas, and like it's just, you're all over the place.
Well, I'm here. I wanted to make the time for sure. So thanks for having me. I'm the one who's blessed.
All right. So, Joel, as we were chatting before the show, you shared with me you believe consistency is the key to success in business. You also shared how irritated you are with people who get involved in business opportunities hoping to earn a full-time income overnight, which we know never happens. And since the vast mob of my listeners are business opportunity marketers, I'd love it if you could help us align expectations here. What should a rookie expect to happen when they get started with a brand new opportunity?
Expect to happen on day one, probably throw up their hands and go, oops, this isn't for me. I thought it was going to be easy. Nothing is easy in business. Is it hard? No, but you got to manage those expectations at first, and the biggest mistake before even diving in and looking at their first solo ad or looking at an online opportunity is the number one thing that irritates me the most. And I see it on a daily basis in our help desk and from our live chats and all that kind of stuff is a professional, let's say he's a professional engineer, will say, I was making $6,000 a month. I lost my job yesterday and I have to replace that income by the end of the month because I have kids and a mortgage and bills to pay. And it's just impossible. It's literally impossible to do. So the tip number one to everybody out there, if you're just getting started, 100% have a backup plan. My backup plan was to live extremely lean at the time. I was living in a 400 square foot townhouse. My mortgage was only $400 a month. And we decided to live at that time off my wife's income. And we decided, no more movies, no more going out, just very lean dinners. And that was my backup plan. And when you have that type of backup plan, it allows you to think more clearly. It allows you to stay more focused. If you've got a $4,000 or a $2,000 mortgage bill coming due in a week, and you need to make that money in the week, it's psychologically impossible to do it.
Yeah, of course. And, because you're so preoccupied with, the shitstorm that's just about to happen and all the emotional turmoil that comes with it, it's really, you end up not treating this like a business, but more so you start seeking opportunities, start going for the shiny object. You try this technique or that method and you fall for these, all kinds of scams and all kinds of, just nasty things. And of course, later you end up blaming, the scammers. But the reality is you didn't prepare yourself. You didn't pay attention, and you made a really bad emotional decision getting into the whole thing in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, when you don't manage the expectations yourself and you you're obviously on a path to certain failure, then the problem is you don't give yourself the credit. You're on this path to certain failure. Failure happens. And then, like you said, you throw up your hands and go, well, I guess this online business stuff isn't for me because I heard that XYZ person, made 10,000 in their first month. What they don't realize is there's a backstory to that. While it may be true that somebody joins an MLM and makes 10,000 in their first month, what they don't tell people is the backstory that they've been online for 4 or 5 years. They have a list of 150,000, 100,000 an engaged list, and they just simply sent an email to that list. Nobody who gets started on day one goes and makes 10 grand in their first month. It just doesn't happen. I haven't seen it personally.
It's interesting you mentioned list building. How critical, how important is list building, the whole process of building, a really successful six-figure or multiple six-figure business from home?
My number one focus right now, single thing that I do is focused on generating a lead, not generating a sale. And that's put me into the 8-figure per year, still working on 9 figures per year. It's the most important thing that you can do. In fact, my first 2 years online, I didn't make a penny because I was trying to sell my web hosting. I was trying to make that sale. And we made some sales. And talking about the bio at the start, I'm talking online sales. Those sales that I made where I had 400 customers, that was door-to-door marketing. I was literally going door-to-door in my hometown, selling people a web presence. But when it came to the online marketing side, it was an absolute failure because, again, I was just focused not on generating trust and generating a lead, but trying to generate a sale. So even still today, every marketing funnel that I create, everything that I look at starts only with list building.
Interesting. You mentioned that you went door to door selling web hosting and web presence. Now, this is great because if there's one commonality between all great salespeople and all great marketers is at some point they either studied from somebody who's done door-to-door sales or they've done door-to-door sales themselves. Like even the great Wolf of Wall Street, Jordan Belfort used to go selling, I think it was mortgages, door-to-door. So do you mind sharing what are some of the things you picked up that you learned selling web presence door-to-door in your hometown that you eventually brought with you to your online business and perhaps even use today to further develop your company?
Well, how I got into the door-to-door sales is my dad owned an advertising agency at the time doing selling ads in a yellow page directory. Now, even back then, back in 1998 when I got started, 97, 98, it's a long time ago, I recognized the fact that yellow pages were going to be obsolete, a thing of the past. So my dad, I thought he was going to show me the ropes, and he did the greatest thing that he could have ever done for me. And so I went, put on a casual suit and got in the car with him and thought I was going to watch him do some sales for the day. And he threw me a copy of his telephone book and he threw me a contract and he said, go see that person over there, go into that business and sell him an ad. Now, he knew wholeheartedly that I wasn't going to make the sale. And I remember how scared to death I was. I was literally scared shitless. So my hands were shaking, I was literally almost ready to cry. And I went in and I didn't make the sale, but I realized what he was trying to do for me is get me out of my comfort zone. And that happened very quickly. So I didn't, first 4 or 5 times, maybe 3-4 days, I made 1 or 2 sales because I wasn't very refined. But what I did learn from all of that was 2 things. One, shut up and be a good listener, because when people have problems in their business, they will verbally let you know what those problems are. And by being a good listener, I could provide a solution. So when I was selling a web presence, there were so many different ways. And I'll use an example of my very, very, very first customer. He did home inspections by trade. And at this point, I had learned to listen well. And I said, well, what are your problems in your business? He said, well, in home inspections, so many people call. They ask me 20 questions as to why I need a home inspector. And so they're really curiosity seekers. So I spend 15 minutes on the phone with them and they hang up and I never hear from them again, or some of them I sell. So I suggested to him, I said, listen, take those top 10 questions that you get from every single person that you're tired of repeating yourself day to day. We're going to put those in an ebook format. And I explained to him what an ebook was. And even at that point, we had our first autoresponder at the time. And even still, conventional businesses think an autoresponder is absolutely magic. They don't know what it is. And it's all centered around the list building. So I said, listen, you're going to create a title on your website, the top 5 or the top 10 things that you need to know before purchasing your first home. I said, you're going to put an opt-in form on there. People are going to download your ebook. They're going to read your ebook. And only at the end of your ebook, we're going to put your phone number, your cell number, so that people are now pre-qualified when they call you and pre-educated, and now they're just ready to buy. And he said it was just, I could have, had I not listened, I could have said, oh, we can do these graphics and this and all this type of stuff. And you can put your domain on your business cards. But by listening to what his core complaint was centered around his business, we provided the ultimate solution to him. And when I saw him again, he's actually still a customer today. His name's Steve McDonald, actually. And I saw him, I haven't seen him in years now, but I saw him a month or two later, and he said it was just phenomenal because now when people call, rather than having 10 or 15 questions, 80% of them are like, okay, I need your services. Where do I buy? And that was the number one thing. The other thing that I learned was it was very difficult back then. And the big core thing that I still use today, a lot of people call it the decoy method, but every purchasing decision is based on a comparison. And an example I like to use, I used to go to Mexico a lot when I was a kid. And there'd be all types of vendors, and you'd be afraid to buy something because some vendor on the street would sell you a beach towel for $40, but then you'd go to the next vendor and find out you just got royally screwed because you could get it for $10. And what I learned very quickly was people who were advertising in my dad's telephone book at the time, it was very, very unsuccessful, my sales at the start, trying to sell web hosting in 1998 because nobody knew the value of having a presence online. They didn't know the value of a domain name and stuff, but they knew the value of the telephone book. So they knew that a full page ad in my dad's telephone book was $1,000 a year. So knowing that they knew the value of that in the comparison, I said, look, what we're going to do is I'm going to build you a web page for free. So I knew how to do a little bit of web design. I'm going to charge you $20 per month. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a second ad in the telephone book, absolutely free, which is going to market your website in the telephone directory itself. And by that, because they knew the value of the book, people were like, that is a no-brainer, sign me up. And those are the two core things that I learned selling door-to-door. Be a good listener, and people always make their buying decisions based on a comparison.
Well, I actually picked up another secret out of this example you provided with the home inspection person, Steve, right? Steve's the name.
Yeah.
So first, congratulations on having such an amazing service where you're able to keep a customer for almost 20 years.
Yeah, I'm aging myself. I'm going to be 44 next month. I used to be the young punk like you years ago. But anyway, yeah, that longevity is another key we can talk about too, I guess.
I get, yeah, that can be a whole other episode on and of itself. But, that alone, my hat is off to you for doing that because it's not easy, especially today when competition is so fierce, the marketplace is so volatile, and, it is so easy to get on your cell phone and look another place of business where you can just leave, right? So obviously you're doing something right if somebody just sticks with you for 20 years. But, the other thing you mentioned was that he was getting these phone calls with a bunch of questions, people who were asking him all these questions, but they were never committing to purchase. Now, this is actually a very, very, very familiar situation for anyone who ever marketed business opportunities. And I hear people complain about this all the time. And the solution which you suggested to Steve was info marketing. In other words, instead of just being a service provider or just selling a product, Steve has now became an educator, and he educated his clients why they should buy from him and not some other home inspector.
Absolutely. He became the authority instantly.
Yes, and if you don't mind, I'd like to take the conversation to this direction now because so many first off, there's a ton of business opportunities out there right now, like a million, and there's a new one popping up every day, if not every hour. So there's so many people out there who are like in their 50s and 60s and even 70s sometimes, get online and they want to make a full-time income, 6 figures, 5 figures, doesn't matter, we want to make money. So obviously they come into this niche or industry and they got zero authority, nothing.
Absolutely.
They're as far from being an authority as you can possibly get. So info marketing, as I find, and as you know, is a very fast way and an extremely fast and easy way to become an authority. So let's discuss exactly the kind of process or kind of thinking that goes behind creating an information product, either free or paid, that allows a newcomer to become an authority.
Well, there's a lot of ways of doing it. You can borrow credibility if what people don't realize is you can be literally on one webinar and you can learn something so revolutionary and it can seem like a baby step, but you're now more educated than 99% of the new people who are getting on board the following day after you do. And I think that's a real mental block for some people. It's like, because a lot of, I'll do webinars too, and people say, well, what do I talk about? I said, talk about what I just taught you tonight. Oh, that's a good idea. I'm like, yeah, you now have the information that people behind you, one day behind you, have no clue. And when you educate people in that way, you create that instant trust, because it's law of reciprocation. People are like, man, this guy's just giving me, or this gal's giving me all types of information for free. They're not asking for my credit card, so on and so forth. So yeah, that's number one, is realize that you're one day smarter than everybody else, even if it's your first day online. That creates good, content. And two, my favorite, and not everybody's willing to do it right away, is video. My daily method of operation now, Igor, is obviously build a list, but build a list using video as my main source of trust. So all of my follow-up emails all have a call to action to a video. And video marketing, which is a form of info marketing, I find has been the best conversions for me, because it just inherently and subconsciously creates more know, like, and trust. There's a lot of, I'm not out here to badmouth anybody, but there's a lot of people outside of network marketing in the CPA space who create these products, and they hire actors and actresses and create fake names and all that kind of stuff to sell something. And I believe if you're a big believer in your product, and I sent you an email. I don't know if you saw it. I was watching your video the other day. It was very informative. You were sitting at a Starbucks or something. And that's the type of information that's just amazing. You're selling without selling, because you're providing people, one, with managed expectations. Two, so my point on that is I've watched that video, and there's one part that you said about why we're inherently skeptical, which is, well, our parents told us not to talk to strangers. And I actually borrowed that and used that on my last video that I shot yesterday. I thought it was just a great piece of advice. So another way people can do it is I surf the other part of my day. Another thing that people are, as their business grows, it's very hard to not be in the business versus working on the business. So I've learned over time, very often I'll work from home now. I'm not always at the office because I get involved in too much of the day-to-day. But what people can do as they start to build their income, follow the best people. Get on as many newsletters as you can get on of good information marketers, and you'll have your next topic in hand for yourself and to create your own authority figure very quickly. It's people think it's hard to find information to tell to others. It's not. It's quite easy.
Oh yeah, the internet is just awash with information. And by the way, I'm happy that you were able to borrow my tip. It actually makes me, feel really good. And just so we're clear, I borrowed it from somebody else. I actually don't remember who I stole it from.
But that's the whole thing. The perception is you're the authority. That was your information. But really, the transfer of information, if you look at the industrial age that we're in, we didn't build jets and we didn't build iPhones magically. It's from the transfer of information over the past 100 years, right? Einstein learned physics, and based on some of that physics, probably some of those parts went into our iPhones. So you look like the guru, but let's face it, it's all transfer of information.
Oh yeah, absolutely. My first successful product, which was the list building product, it was a complete ripoff of Ryan Dice's product, which was called Underground List Building, where I just took a segment of information and I retold it in my own words. And here's the secret, guys. Actually, here's not even a secret, but the real reason why I believe people struggle with information marketing, although this is by far and away the best way to promote yourself and your business without coming across as salesy and, like being that, used car salesman person. The reason is because people won't give themselves the permission. You see, Ever since we're grown up, we're being told what to do. We have authorities, we have teachers, we have, politicians, we have policemen, we have parents, whatever. And so we're always being told what to do, and we're asking and seeking permission. But online, the beautiful part around, about the internet, obviously there's a bad part about it, which is, it's kind of like the Wild Wild West, so you can get burned real easily. But at the same time, there's no one out there that can forbid you from becoming an authority. That's why you see all these, YouTubers and Instagrammers and, instant celebrities kind of pop overnight, because there's no barrier anymore. So you can be an authority simply because you have the audacity to believe that you deserve to be one.
It's the audacity. You said the exact right thing. The audacity and the willingness to absolutely come out of your comfort zone just a little bit. And I just want to talk about that just for a second. Here's the best way that people can get over fear. The fear of, well, I don't want to shoot my first video, or what if I screw up, is look at your fear through the rear view mirror. In other words, all the things that you were afraid of in the past, whether maybe it was, proposing to your wife or your husband, or asking somebody out on a date, or making your first email that you sent, you can look back on that through the rear view mirror and go, you know what? I was really nervous when I first created that, but now I look at it And it's something that is just part of my day to day. And, because we're all still coming out of our, without continued education, you've got to have that audacity to keep learning. And so, yeah, just look, when you're fearful of something, think of something that you were dreadfully fearful in the past, and you'll probably laugh at it and move forward and just fail forward fast. Perfection creates procrastination, and just have the audacity to do it, like you said.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I was speaking to John Carlton the other day, and he's like, dude, the best thing I could ever do for my business and my success was to make as many mistakes as I could possibly make as fast as I could make them, because, that's how you learn. And, the whole concept of taking other people's or other experts' information and feeding it back to the marketplace as your own is actually a concept that Ray Higdon talks about in Instant Expert, or 3-Minute Expert, where it's called Learn, Do, Teach, or Invest, Do, Teach, where you learn something, you implement it immediately, which is great for you in your business because then you get results faster, and then you go teach it to other people, which is another way it solidifies the whole concept in your mind, as well as, of course, it solidifies your presence in the marketplace.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with you, and it's wise advice. It comes back to what you're saying about Ray Higdon and 3-Minute Expert. Is you can be, like I said, on a webinar or watch one YouTube video and regurgitate. Now, that's not to say if you see a blog post, you copy and paste the blog post, the article itself. No, it's now transfer of information, and as long as you say it in your own words, it's a good thing to do.
Well, you could actually even take it one step further. If you really feel uncomfortable about this, you can actually say, hey, here's something I learned from X, right? Like I just mentioned John Carlton, whatever I just dispensed, right? I said, look, John Carlton was the one to say it to me. And whenever I share, email marketing advice, most of it comes from my friend Ben Settle. So I just say, look, this is something I learned from Ben Settle. Here's what he says, and here's how I implement it in my business. So there's no shame to admit you learn from someone else. In fact, this honesty only gives you additional points, because let's face it, most people out there, they lie. They are dishonest. They try to put a facade, right? They try to hide things. And when you come across as this being really honest and straightforward person, it's very easy to learn to like and trust you. And that, of course, will result in more sales.
Absolutely. I agree 100%.
So, Joel, you keep mentioning the comfort zone. And it's obviously a big thing. I mean, in your life story, which I was able to pick up before the show, you mentioned that one of the biggest mistakes that you've ever made was to not play big enough from the get-go.
Yeah.
So, do you mind, sharing what's the reasoning behind that?
Looking back now, I'm not quite sure why I didn't play big enough right away. I think as you see results, every little result creates a new breakthrough, I think, and it expands your mind more. I think actually, you know what? Thinking about it, here's the key component is why I didn't think big enough. I did have a billionaire mentor. I was doing his personal training at his home, but I only saw him once a week, and we became actually quite good friends, but there was always that intimidation factor. I was driving like this shitty little Eagle Vista, and I'd pull up to his doorstep and he'd have a Rolls Royce, a Lamborghini, and a couple other cars there, like $4 million worth of cars. So there was always that intimidation factor, even though he was very pleasant, very kind, and very good with me. And so I think that I didn't think big enough at first is because I didn't start seeing the value in centering myself around like-minded people. When I first got started, it was more, I can do this myself. And in fact, the video I shot the other day, which is very true, there's no such thing as a self-made millionaire. And what I mean by that is there's people that make great money, but it's through JVs and associations and networking. And I think as I started to hang around more people, I started, that doesn't mean drop your friends and family who don't think like you. It's not that. When I'm at dinner with friends or family, I just don't talk about business. I talk about what they want to talk about, whether it's their kid at hockey or whatever it might be. But as I started to hang around and choose my friends wisely, I think that's when I started to expand more and more and more. And of course, those little breakthroughs. So my first sale after 2 years was online, not the offline door-to-door, but online was $9.97 after 2 years. And why? Because again, I was trying to sell people, not help people or generate a list at the time. And I was jumping up and down. The sale happened at 3:00 in the morning. And it was the first time ever in my life, because before that it was door-to-doors. The amount of money I was making was a direct effort of the work I was putting into it. And this was the first time that I actually made money while I was sleeping. And I was just absolutely ecstatic. And once that breakthrough happened, even though it wasn't very much money, like I was bragging to my wife and I was bragging to my father, I told you so, I told you so, I told you could make money, blah, blah, blah. They're all scratching their head like, well, listen, $9 is not going to pay your mortgage. But to me, it didn't matter at that point. I knew I was heading in the right direction. It was, how do I go from $9, replicate that 100 times, 1,000 times, 10,000 times? And because of that breakthrough, I think my mind really, really expanded to what was possible. And when your mind expands, you take more and more action. And because of those bigger action steps that I took, I think the next month I made like $2,000. And then the month after that, $15,000. And then it jumped to like $30,000 exclusively online. So yeah, I mean, I think if people are thinking small right now, I get it. I was there. I've been there where my first goal was to pay my mortgage. And my mortgage at the time was $400. And I think just if you get yourself to events like you shared with you want to move to Canada for a couple of reasons. But one of the reasons for you on a business level is so that you can get to more events. What do more events do? It gets you around like-minded people. When you're around like-minded people, your mind really expands quickly.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, my first event was a big revelation. I was like, coming back home, going to the event, I was feeling like I almost tapped out the marketplace. But coming back and seeing all these people making 10 times more money than I was like, man, there's so much more to this. There's things to do. And I came back fired up, and my business partner, he was looking at me as if I was crazy. As if I came back on drugs or something. But it is intoxicating to discover that there is a whole new world out there, and there's people just like you, normal people who started out with nothing, just like you, who are just getting ridiculous results.
Yeah, absolutely. It's and the thing is, what's really cool, I used to share, my mom passed 2 years ago, but she came from the conservative mindset. We had a very, very tight-knit family. So naturally, I would have an idea. First, when I told her that I was quitting my job as a cardiac rehab specialist, she told me I was ruining my life. Not that she was trying to be cruel. That was how she was brought up. Get a good education, get a good job. And naturally, you just, when you first start out, you want validation from the people you love the most. And so my mom would give me her advice, but it wasn't based on an experience. It was only based on a gut instinct. It was only based on her belief, and her belief may or may not be factual. When you get to these events and you talk to somebody, and I know you're in the list building industry and solo ads, and you talk to another person that's doing solo ads, they might say, hey, Igor, try doing it this way, because this is where I got a better result. And then when you know that you're getting advice from people based on experience itself, then you're going to get a better result. There's nothing worse, and I see it time and time again. And another value, it's funny how we're getting around like-minded people, but I see a lot of people, Igor, as well. They don't realize that network marketing is a learned skill. It's an absolute learned skill. Recruiting is a learned skill.
Wait a second. My daughter was born $1 million network marketer.
There you go. Exactly. But it's a learned skill. And I see so many people have massive passion, but you watch them, from afar, obviously, and you see the mistakes that they're making, and they're actually, they're heading down the wrong path. So even though they're putting all their passion and all their energy, will they see some results? Yes. But you're like, man, if they just turned a little bit, maybe 20 degrees to the right, and changed things a bit, they'd see 10 times the results. And you only get that when you get surrounded by like-minded people that have done things based on experience.
Nice. Well, here's another tip. If you are by, any chance, you're like living in a cave, like I am, for example, out of Israel, hick town, 25,000 people, really, really small. And you don't have the opportunity to go travel or, get out of the house often, and you don't have a billionaire mentor. A good place to start would be to read books. So Joel, here's my question to you. I know you're an avid reader. I mean, you have to be. Anyone who makes 8 figures a year or, it's just impossible not to. So what would you say are the top 3 books every internet marketing or business opportunity marketer rookie should read?
Well, one, you're going to be shocked at this, but it's true, but not true. I don't read. I use audible.com, and there's a specific reason for that. Is I was born with a very weak ocular muscle on one side, on one of my eyes, that's not fixable. So when I read, I get headaches very quickly. That's just a side note. But, the point of that is there's always a solution to a problem. A lot of people say, listen, I don't have time to read. Well, my favorite is audible.com. I use that because I can listen to books while I'm on the road. I can listen to books while I'm I'm, working and doing stuff on my computer. And some of the, there's a lot of good books. The ones that helped me specifically in business, one was Michael Gerber's The E-Myth. As your business expands, that was the biggest challenge for me, by the way, Igor, is once the business became bigger than me and I started having to hire other people to share the vision with, people are motivated by different things. And again, that's another whole interview.
In there, man. I know exactly what you've gone through.
Yeah, we're at over 100 of full-time staff now, and that was a big uphill battle for me. So that was a good book. If people are starting to hire people, the E-Myth is very good, and it talks about the 3 different hardwires of mindsets, which is the technician, the manager, and the entrepreneur. The technician, just as an example, and the manager, they like to be very organized. So if they know that they're coming in on Monday to do a specific task, and then the entrepreneur like myself comes to them and changes that task, they get very flustered, very frustrated. They get, it's not the way they are specifically hardwired. Whereas if you look at entrepreneurs like ourselves, if I'm not changing things up on a daily basis or trying new things, I feel like I'm getting stagnant and we're going to fail. So that was one really good book for anybody who's getting past the me stage. In other words, you're running your business yourself. You're starting to hire other people. That was really good. Gary Vaynerchuk has a lot of good books on social media, which I'm really starting to pay a lot of attention to. That helped me a lot as well. For those who are having a hard time taking action because of fear, there's another book called You're a Badass.
That's a sweet title, man.
It's a really good book, and it's actually the author that does the Audible version. Jen Shinchiro is her name. And that was a really good book where I took tips on, she really talks about fear in life. So if you're a real introvert individual and you know that you need to grow, but something is just holding you back, whether it's talking to people or you're just stalled out of fear, that was an excellent, excellent book to read. It really changes your perspective. And it changed my perspective to realize that your perspective is just that. It's only your perspective, and how other people see you can be 1,000% different than how you see yourself. So that was an excellent book as well. I don't know. I've listened to well over 150 books, so there's lots of them. But the most recent ones, like I said, Gary Vaynerchuk has some good books out on social media. That one was one I listened to. Eric Worre's book is very good, Network Marketing Pro. Learned a lot from that. Those who are specific about recruiting and network marketing, that was a good book. But you hit the nail on the head, Igor. The key is definitely read a lot or do what I do, listen to a lot of Audible books, because again, what you're doing is, it's like you said, if you can't get to a specific event, well, as long as you're educating yourself from the people that have the experience, it's a big difference.
It is a game changer, my friend. I agree with you completely. So, Joe, who's like the ideal person that you'd like to see join Pure Leverage?
I use a test because a lot of people say this as well, and it's part of again, like I said, network marketing is a learned model. It's a learned skill, and so a lot of people come to us and they say, okay, well, who do I work with? Who in my downline do I work with? Who do I not work with? How do I build my downline? That kind of stuff. And I always use baby steps. So in other words, if I give somebody a specific task, so here's what you can do, whether you're a member of any network marketing company. One is give them a very simple, specific task. So Eric Worre talks about it as well. In other words, if I give you this task, would you please do it? And it's a big test to see, because network marketing is very independent. Now, of course, do I want all the big wigs out there that have lists of 500,000 people to join our team? Absolutely. But when you're to the average person, you never know who the new shining star is going to be. So I give people specific tasks and I rate them based on that task. So if I could tell somebody, hey, go watch this compensation plan video, and I say, listen, if today's like Wednesday, I say, can you watch this video by Friday morning? If they call me back Wednesday, like a half hour later, or email me and they say, fantastic video, they've exceeded my expectations. I gave them a deadline of Friday. They did it right away. It shows some massive passion and they're coachable. So those are the key people. Whereas on the other opposite of the spectrum, I ask somebody to watch a very simple video and I call them or I send them an email. Hey, did you watch the video Friday? And they come back, oh, well, my daughter was sick or I got called into work or whatever. Listen, we're all busy. It doesn't matter. Those are the people that I just stopped working with. And I think one of the biggest mistakes that people make in recruiting is they believe too much in somebody else's potential. So let's say your uncle is the best car salesman in your town of Israel, and you're looking at him because, hey man, he sells 25 cars a month.
Dude, we don't have cars in Israel. What are you?
Well, I'm just saying, okay, so let's say New York City. He's the best car salesman in Manhattan. He sells a car a day. He's the best salesman. And you're trying to recruit him because he's your uncle. And you're like, man, this guy is so good at sales that he would just do so well in my opportunity. But the reality is what you're doing is you're believing in that person's potential, whereas that uncle might be, shit, I love selling. I love my job. I love selling cars. And they're not looking for anything else. So network marketing is about talking to thousands, literally thousands of people. Now you can do that with the internet, and there's clues left everywhere. So a lot of people say, well, put a post, the other, it's really almost bastardization. You've seen this on Facebook, in Facebook groups. Join my team, click here. Click here, make $1 million. Click there, click whatever. And I tell people, tell a story. Tell a story on your fan page. Tell a story on your personal profile. And if even one person likes your story, that's your next lead. Those are the people you want to work with because they took action on their own. So I give people these baby steps. And if they don't complete those things, I literally drop them. Too many people fall, they focus on that uncle for 45 days and then their uncle joins but does nothing, or their uncle doesn't join. And then what do they say? I guess this industry isn't for me. That's why it's a learned skill. It's about talking to thousands of people. Because people can talk the good game. Oh, I can do this. Okay, well, then put it into action. Did you watch the video that I sent you? It's only 5 minutes long. Oh, no, my daughter was sick, blah, 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 blah. Versus the person who calls back 5 minutes later said, I'm on board. Let's do this. Big difference.
Yeah, what I'm hearing is repulsion marketing. This is a big secret for almost anyone who's a top performer, anyone who makes 7 figures a year. They all have these barriers, myself included, right? I strategically put up barriers in front of the people who want to work with me, because the ones who are going to make it all the way through to me, through like 10 different barriers, are going to be the best ones to work with. They're not going to argue about my prices. They're going to follow through with my guidance and homework. So that's actually the secret why I was able to start a coaching program within just 2 years, have almost 100 success stories, because I quite literally cherry-picked the ones that were willing to jump through all my hoops.
Absolutely, because you have to cherry pick. It's a sad but reality here at GVO. The ones that pay us the least are the ones that expect the most. Do it for me, do it for me, do it for me. And those are not the people you want to work with. The ones that scream help, 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 help. It's like, okay, those are not the people I'm going to help unless they prove to me through, like you said, through these barriers or tests that they're willing to put in the work. Because I think the other biggest misconception is centered around this easy button that, one of the biggest lies in network marketing, especially, is I'll build your downline for you. I've never seen anybody successful in this industry have their downline built by their upline. It just doesn't exist as well.
Wow. So far, this has been a tremendous call. I think anyone who's in a company, just joined recently, or, been struggling for a little while, this is eye-opening stuff. In fact, I urge you list builders to listen to this a couple of times, because not only the things we voiced, but also the things that were said, in between the lines are really, really powerful. So, Joel, how can my list builders work with you?
Probably, you probably hear the reluctance in my voice because, one, you're a very high quality marketer, and two, combined with our website and our fan page and everything, I probably get about 400 emails a day. The best place to go is just to go to joeltherien.com, and that will actually redirect to my blog. And then on there's a JV with Joel. And yeah, I'm willing to work with anybody who's willing to put in the work, but they won't hear from me personally. They'll go through the test market too. Do this, do this, do this. And I think the longevity, we talked a little bit about the 20 years I've been here. We're one of few network marketing organizations that I've always focused on value before anything else. So that's why I think hey, if you need an autoresponder, give us a call. If you need web hosting, give us a call. If you want to build pure leverage as one of our opportunities, that's great too. So I appreciate that sort of plug. But the best way to contact me directly is off my blog at joeltherien.com, I would say. Give me a couple of days, because I get about 300 requests a day there, but I do get back to all those people personally.
Wow. Well, guys, you've heard. So now you have an opportunity to work with just somebody who's tremendously successful now for a couple of decades online. So you got to go to joeltherien.com. And when you land there, you're going to see a big blue banner at the top. And then below it, you'll see a button that says JV with Joel. And get ready to be tested. Because this guy just ain't got time for tie kickers. Plain and simple. So with that said, Joel, just a huge thanks from my Jewish heart, for doing this, for sitting down with us. It's been, we usually, by the way, in case you don't know, our episodes are about 20 minutes long. This one,
those are ideal. Actually, I think beyond that is anyway, anything's good, but it's good to know. I think 20 minutes you can learn a lot. You go much beyond that, and it's maybe too much information sometimes.
Well, hopefully you've been entertaining enough to help our listeners stick for 40 minutes because we're going on 33rd minute now. But anyway. Thank you so much. And until next time we talk, have a good one.
Yeah, you too, Igor. Thank you very much. And thank you to all the listeners. I really appreciate your time. And just take it wholeheartedly. There's no magic button. Put in the consistency and you will see the results. Again, massive passion, immediate action, and a constant education are the three core components that I live my life around still now. So massive passion, immediate action, and a continuous education from the right people. So thanks, Igor. Have an awesome day, my friend. It's a pleasure talking to you, and we'll see you again soon.
Thank you for listening to The List Building Lifestyle. Make sure to subscribe on iTunes or Google Play to never miss an episode. Because who knows, just one conversion tactic we share on the show might double your list and double your business. Download the transcript of today's episode and all future episodes at listbuildinglifestyleshow.com. And don't forget to claim your complimentary copy of the Wealthy List Builder Survival Guide at listbuildinglifestyleshow.com/survival. This is Igor Kheifets, and until next time we talk, have a good one.
This is the podcastfactory.com.